summary of what this project that we've been working on is all about. We collect seeds through a contract with the Forest Service for reforestation, post-fire remediation, and restoration efforts. These are all native plant seeds, mostly grasses, but we do have quite a few wildflower and shrub species as well. So that's just the quick elevator pitch of like what the point is of all the things that we're going to be talking about is in pursuit of this, fulfilling these seed collecting contracts that we have. So that being said, our target species list evolves every year, year over year, based on how much we've collected previously and what the forest units are looking for specifically. Sometimes they are looking for more ecotypical seeds from a certain provisional seed zone. So certain species are being removed, or like with one species we were discussing yesterday, we're only going to be looking at from certain regions of the state. And so that will inform our scouting efforts so that they can be a little bit more precise. And that being said, we did remove penstem and varens from our species target list, and that will continue to evolve. Once we have a finalized species list, I will go through the iNaturalist project and make sure that everything that is on there and accepting the species will be up to the minute and current, but that is remaining in flux. And as I already mentioned, some people have already registered for, and we're very glad that you're here. But if you're not aware, we're doing kind of like a top-down overview training from first principles for anyone who's interested. The only requirements are that you kind of have a familiarity, you're already a user of iNaturalist, you have some botanical background, and we'll just be kind of covering from basic principles like this is what we're looking for, this is how we're looking for it, here's how you can go through it and join from your phone, here's how you can participate from desktop, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be sending out these slides after the meeting, so don't worry about copying and pasting anything. And based on the work that we've already been doing, we are already filling out this sign-up sheet of summer and spring field scouting opportunities. So I'm really excited to bring this to the group because I know we've all been working diligently on our iNaturalist observation curation, and this is kind of phase 2 of how we're going to be scouting during the season and just getting people out on the landscape. If you are already having summer plans and you already plan to be out on the forest, you're already going to be going camping, say in the Black Hills or Bighorn, consider looking at the sign-up sheet and saying, okay, well, I'm going to be in the area. Why don't I go and check this observation point out? And these GPS units are taken from iNaturalist observations that have already happened. This is the opportunity to go and assess how many plants are actually there. Is this a sustainable population that can be collected from? Is this the actual, these are research grade observations, so we already have a fairly good sense of these are the plants that we are looking for. But, it doesn't hurt to actually go and find out, is this at least 50 plants? Is this an area that is accessible to volunteers or to crews? And if you are not familiar with filter views, it's just a method of filtering when it's only reflected in the view that you have. So it's not filtering it for everyone else if there are multiple people looking at the spreadsheet. And as I said before, we'll be sending out these slides and sharing these links at the end of the meeting for anyone interested in participating in this phase of scouting. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Just a quick question.
Yeah,
Would May be a good month to go to Comanche National Grassland, at least for scouting purposes? Seems like maybe that would be peak bloom time out there.
for certain plants, it would be peak bloom time. There, if there, if you know that you're going to be wanting to go to Comanche in May, I can go and look for certain things that might be in bloom then, and we can kind of collaborate together on what to look for and where. Um, but yeah, certain things will still be in vegetative state, obviously. So, but you'll see, maybe there will be previous season seed heads still present. So yeah, I think that would be a fine time to go.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like even hosting a field trip for the Native Plant Society out there.
Awesome.
Probably in May before it gets too warm out there. So yeah, I'll give it some thought and see what target species might be best seen at that time, and we can just do that as an initial scouting, I guess.
That'd be a fantastic idea. I love that, and that's kind of a goal of part of this project, right? Is you know I know up in the for the northern chapter, um, Mount Margaret trailhead would be a great like early summer field trip location, and there happens to be quite a few observations in that area. So this is exactly the kind of thing that we want to get started. So yeah, let's be in touch about that for Comanche as well. That would be great. Any other initial questions about what we've discussed so far? If not, we can continue straight into and Maggie, unless you have anything you want to say before we start doing our species profiles.
Yeah, I just got up to get a pencil, so I missed the beginning of it, but I think it was Tom who was talking about Comanche. And I just wanted to mention, Tom, like I've been talking a lot with Southern Plains Land Trust. And even just today I talked to Karen about, you know, linking our network so that when we do collections in Cimarron and Comanche, they would come and help us, and then we can also help them with their plant inventories and rare plant work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw the Southern Plains Land Trust also had their own work days, so I might try and cross pollinate with them, maybe volunteer and go out there in March or April. But yeah, that could be fun to do some plant surveys of the stuff, even though I know that's not a suitable collection zone for BLM project.
I also had a question, really quick, Melly. So once you go to to a point on that sheet, how do you like input notes about what you found?
Okay, that's a really good question. Thank you. So it is assumed that when you go to these sites, you will make your own iNaturalist observations and enter the things that we want to see, like number of plants, um, habitat type, etc. And there's also a tab on this spreadsheet for volunteer notes. And you can look at that tab and say, okay, I'm going to fill in, and I'll maybe leave notes in there in addition to iNaturalist, but either or is good. Um, and that way we'll be able to, and that is also a way of leaving notes for the other volunteers saying, I've already done this point, no need to double dip, and um, this was the parking situation, this is where I parked, this is the access point, that kind of thing. So you can either leave it in the iNaturalist observation or on the spreadsheet itself on that notes tab.
Great, thank you.
And yeah, of course. And Tom, you reminded me to make that update about the plant rescue. So last month when we met, Tom brought to the group this population of a certain critically imperiled penstemon. and how it overlaps in range with one of our target species. And we were able to get those populations in the San Isabel National Forest. We alerted the park supervisor about it, and he's been in dialogue with the Denver Botanic Gardens about getting those plants moved, rescued, because they're in like this sinkhole depression area and also in a logging area. So we'll be rescuing those plants. And there's a possibility of a chapter event for relocating those plants. And we're waiting to hear from that park supervisor, or forest supervisor rather, on the timing for that. So that's just one of the cool side effects of this project is finding those little opportunities for restoration and reclamation. So thank you, Tom. And without further ado, I think it is time to cover some plants. In these meetings, we discuss how to key out our target species, and we'll typically cover like 2 species in a meeting. And this month, we're going to be doing Geum triflorum and Poa secunda. And because it is Valentine's Day, I decided to do a rose species. So starting from the top of Rosaceae in the Ackerfield 2nd edition, we are going to key out the species from the first. So, and this is a fairly simple rose species to key out. So let's hit it. We go to 1 and 1B. These leaves are compound, deeply dissected or lobed, over halfway to the midrib. And as you can see from this vegetative condition photograph, it meets that. So we're going to go to 1B, and you skip all the way to 18. You don't have to mess around with all those other things. So we're going to skip to 18. These leaves are ternately compound, having 3 leaflets. And that goes to 19. Plants lacking stolons, which is the above ground rhizome structure. Fruit unlike the above, which would be an aggregate of achenes on an enlarged fleshy receptacle, which would be strawberry or fragaria. It lacks those stolons. So we're going to go to 21. Calyx lobes alternating with the bracteoles. Fruit in achene or aggregate of achenes, stems lacking prickles, flowers yellow or white. And we can see in this photograph here, those petals within the bract and bracteoles are white petals. And a bracteole is a leaf-like structure that is higher on the stem or inflorescence than a bract. It's slightly different from a bract, but it's positional. And we skip to 22. Stamens more than 10, pistils numerous, usually more than 20. And you can see in this up close picture of the inflorescence, those are there's more than 10 of those if you actually dissect it and open it up. Going to 23. The ovary and achene are hairy, styles terminal, persistent and elongating in fruit, sometimes hooked at the tip or not hooked, but plumose or glabrous. And that takes us to the family of Geum. And in this example photo of the flower and fruit, there's little hooks at the tips right there. And we'll go to Geum. And I think I skipped a step where we get to the species, but Geum triflorum, old man's whiskers, prairie smoke. The triflorum meaning 3 flowers. So you can kind of see here there's like 3 flowers coming off of a single stem. There's no prickles or spines on this stem. It's more of a soft hairs. And you can see why it's called prairie smoke, because you imagine an entire meadow full of these things, and it just looks like this pink smoke kind of wafting up from the ground. It's very lovely. It occurs in meadows, forest openings, along streams at these elevations. More on the Front Range and Western Slope. And in our comparative anatomy section of the class, we're going to talk about lookalikes. And there's two pretty close lookalikes. If you're not paying super close attention, these do look superficially similar. So Geum rivali, or rival, I don't know how to pronounce that. That is purple avens, or snow avens, river avens. And that has a different leaf structure completely. And the flowers, the inflorescence is a bit more cuboid looking to me. It's a bit more squared off. The petals are more pink. Lives in wet meadows at high elevation. It's kind of shorter achenes than the prairie smoke. Different habitat, different leaf. And then you have, this also has the common name of prairie smoke or prairie pasque flower, but it is in the Ranunculaceae family rather than the rose family. It has these silky hairs on the bracts. The leaves are quite different, and it's not a triflorate inflorescence. It's one inflorescence per stem rather than 3 per stem like in our target species. And thank you for attending this TED Talk. That completes my portion of the presentation. Maggie, if you'd like to take over with the Poa secunda, the floor is yours.
Melly, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Did you say the common name of the Geum rivali?
Purple avens in Ackerfield.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We're working to build like a species guide. Imagine like a spiral bound guide that you would take with you into the field to train the CNHP seasonals and our volunteers regarding the target species list. So when we prepare a species for you, it's basically live training that facilitates this bigger publication progress or project. And working on that project is Curtis and Melly and our other intern Laurel. And I'm working on it as well. So I am going to show you what is like our worksheet before we get to the Canvas page. We'll show you that at some other day, the Canva page, excuse me. So this is kind of like the data collection worksheet. How do we collect the data for the species guide? And I'm going to walk you through the worksheet. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because if you like doing this or you want to help us in another way, you could try your hand at filling out one of these worksheets. And let's see. Here's where we are on our species progress, right? We're making progress on almost all the species, and we're waiting on other factors and stuff. But if you want to try your hand, we would love to have your help. Okay, so the first thing we always collect, and some of these things really relate to the data we collect in the field as well during the actual seed collection event. So we do collect a lot of data in Esri, in ArcGIS about these kinds of things that we'll look at. So we look for 3 photos. And when you're taking photos in INAT, you might keep this in mind. We need a vegetative one, a flowering one, and one of the mature seeds, which you can't get at every season. And then also in our data collection, we also collect a habitat photo. And that's one that we're not going to be displaying in the guide, but as you're working through your INAT observations, like just clicking a picture of the entire habitat is a step that sometimes people miss. All right. And we use the photos in INAT. And so this is Allie Clark, our comrade here. This is her photo. So Poa secunda, Here we go. And one thing that I noticed, and I wondered if anyone else could chime in on this. I noticed in many, many pictures this process where like the stem retained the green longer than the inflorescence. I don't know if that's really a character to look out for, but it was something I noticed. All right. And here's a close-up of the inflorescence. And in a lot of POA species, like you've got that red coloration going on. And this is a great photo. Where did I get this one from? Oh, this I think was some site in California, but take a look at this. This is a great photo. It gives us so much information about the size. And when we get down to it, we can really like assess the qualities of the lemma and the palea and the floret itself. All right, so those are examples of photos you can take. And I've had really good success, like when trying to photograph seeds, like just kind of making a dissection of the inflorescence on my leg and then just taking a close-up photo of my leg. And I actually have pants, black pants. I like to wear black pants for this purpose. And you can kind of lay a ruler down your pant leg. So all the different photographic techniques. All right. So we want to think about the phenology of the plant. And for me, actually, this has been one of the hardest pieces to pull in like systematically. We don't want to have tons of citations through here. So we're basically using like USDA plants database, SciNet, National Phenology Network, iNaturalist, and I'm skipping over one big one, but I can't think of what it is right now. All right, so we have program data, and we'll look at that in just a minute. And then sometimes I can find references to like research data, but some of these species haven't been studied that much. In this case, it was noted in Ackerfield that the bloom period was May to August. And so we learned just yesterday from Paul Alaback how you can do an actual calculation to figure out the ripening and dispersing and the breaking of dormancy. Like you can make an R code, or Curtis could, that if we had the bloom period and we had like first frost date for the ecoregion or whatever we're looking at, we could solve this. But we're still working on it if you have any ideas. In the case of Poa secunda, like I just found some research that was done. And that was in the FEIS, that was the other big site. Fire Effects Information Center, or system, whatever that stands for. Let's go look. Fire Effects Information System, sorry. So sometimes there's great data here to pick up on and all sorts of information, and sometimes there's not. It depends on the species. But I find this to be like a lot more information than we are pulling into the species guide. But I personally, when working my worksheet, like really hold on to a lot of that. So text to be included in the guide is actually just red, which you'll see is not very much of it. Okay, so this is the kind of phenology chart that we can produce from our data collection efforts at the time of seed collection and scouting. And Curtis, would you mind describing how you get this? How'd you make this? Like when were you, was it in the survey 1, 2, 3, or how are you collecting the phenological data?
Yeah, so when we were out this last season in survey 1, 2, 3, there were 5 fields for phenology, which you can see there on the right. It's developing seed, it's flowering, has mature seed, it's already spreaded seed, or it's just in vegetative growth. And so whenever we came across target species, we like just did an estimate of the percent of the population that was in each of those 5 stages. And so this graph is just a sum of each of those uh, estimates. So it kind of gives you an idea of both of like how often we were seeing the plant as well as what phenology stage it was in. Because for Poa secunda, especially like you only see it for a few months out of the year, like you can see here. So it's not that that's also like an important piece to note for these like uh herbaceous plants that you can't see all the time is like just when can you even see it?
All right, well, thank you. And I was wondering, like, why does the y-axis go to 800? Like, is that like 8 records in the compilation, or?
Yeah, so the y-axis label isn't right really because the percentage can't go up to 800, but it's a sum of the percentages. So that could either be like 8 populations found at 100% mature seed, or it could be 10 populations at 80% mature seed, or any other combination that gets you to 800. So it's just a sum of percentages.
All right, well, thank you. All right, so we have these data for species we've already collected, but not for our new species for this year. And this is something we've been talking about in the last like week or so, is that in iNaturalist, and this is really why our work in the iNat project is going to be really cool and helpful, is that iNat is working on like developing this phenological reference only with research grade observations. And so I was kind of messing around with these different maps, and other people might chime in because I haven't fully interpreted them yet. But like Curtis was saying, I think the seasonality is giving us a picture of when people see this plant, right? And then in the history, I think this is it's over the years. So a slightly different perspective. And then here's flowering and fruits. And I think this is where we're going to see more action in iNat if we help to contribute more data, is this like coding, right? Once, as it was described to me by Paul, like once a couple of research grade observations of a specific species are noted phenologically, like then the machine learning can like apply that to all the other ones. So that's kind of cool. All right, so looking at phenology and just knowing when to look, right? So now we're looking at where to go. And so this is a screenshot of a zoomed in map you can get off USDA plants database. And so when you just like click in, what you see is nativity by state. But if you click a little bit farther in, you can start to see nativity by county. So let's see here. Oh, sorry. Well, it works. That's where it is on the USDA plants database page. And so looking at this view, we can get a sense for in our 5-state region, region 2, Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota, where is this plant? And that is helpful because there are different crews in different areas. And we could also overlay layers here, talking to you, CEU Boulder interns right now. layering these data with the forest district boundaries and the forest boundaries would really put us exactly where we need to be to understand what forests we've collected in what ecoregions. So that's part of the data management we've been talking about. Okay, another map. So here in iNaturalist, I've queried by species, research grade flora, and I've map limited the area, as Melly was talking about before, to region 2 states. And these are all the observations for this species. So then what I do is have too many tabs open, as always. But if you press Control Enter, you can open every single one in a tab. And I kind of struggle because like once I go into an observation, like it doesn't go to this next Poa secunda one. It goes to the next observation by this person. So I find it to be more helpful to just click and open all of these tabs and get a sense for what's going on. And I know what you people look like, right? So I can even tell whose observation it is based on their little face icon. But we have done quite a bit here to make an impact, right? So I just randomly selected the first half dozen, and there we have Allie. Yay to Allie. And this is most F on a scouting or collection trip that CNHP took in the past. And here we can see different photos that Allie took. See, this is a great one because it makes reference to the ligule, you know, and you can see that, and whether the stem is round or compressed, etc. All right, but see, if I clicked over here onto the green arrows, I would just get to Allie's next observation, not another POA. So that's why I like to just open the tabs. So like this guy, Matt Lavin, I don't know, does anyone know him? But we've been using a lot of his photos. And so we've really met people doing this because we find people who are making high quality observations and we reach out to them. You can like write messages to people in iNet. So here we go on and on. I like to look at lots of different pictures of the same species to really get a sense of that, like, what is the gestalt of the plant, you know? If you just look at one picture, it might be like the most robust specimen that was on that hike. And that might not really be a good indication of what's the plant is really like. Here we see some important things, just how and phenophase on a grass. Would this be like bud burst? I mean, when it comes out of the sheath, what phenophase is that? Do you guys have any ideas?
I don't know, but I love that that person just drew a centimeter on their thumb.
I was thinking the same thing. What a great idea.
Yeah, that's funny.
So is that a budding phase?
I think that's what I would put it at, but
Or maybe seed set? I guess budding is more for flowers and this is post flower, so maybe it's early seed set.
good point, Tom. All right. Well, in the interest of time, we're gonna keep going. Let's see who we got here. Jacob. I don't know Jacob.
Hey, folks, I just want to say I need to leave because this is Della. I just got word that 3 of our 10 people at the Black-footed Ferret Center just got terminated. So we're going to have an emergency meeting. Yeah, 3 out of 10 people. So, boy, okay, here it comes.
I'm
You guys
so
take
sorry.
care.
Sorry. Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Oh, it's a brave new world, people.
The future is uncertain, but seeds are eternal.
And all these, we'll get here in just a sec. But notice how like this is not hairy, right? There's like not really not a lot about this that can be characterized as hairy, and that's kind of important in the key when you're looking at this species. And look, yeah, see some great pictures here. All right, and we will go back to this worksheet. All right. So all this writing in red and black is like just stuff I picked up from the USDA plants database or the FEIS page. But then I like digested it into this paragraph. And I got pretty routine with it, right? Like, where is it at what elevation? Is it palatable or not? What are the soil types? What's the forage potential? That could have been the sentence before. And then going to fire comment, done. You know, there's, you can sort of get into a groove of what might be said about a species. And then this part, CNHP, hopefully Curtis, you'll help us get this in there from the survey 123 environment. Okay, here's Matt Lavin again. This is another important one when we're looking at this species. You know, in the key, they're talking about whether it's oppressed, right? And so if you think of like slender wheatgrass, right? Like the inflorescences would be kind of oppressed to the stem, but these aren't. But it's still a panicle, but it's a compressed panicle, right? And these are the kinds of language that we see here. It's looks kind of like a raceme, but it's not, because of the like stems that are involved. Okay, here's a really nice super close picture. I was already noting before, like, look, I can see like maybe a tiny bit of hair right here where my cursor is, but otherwise I'm not seeing a cobwebby anything, which is what's going to put us at secunda in the key. And here's another, that's kind of like a pretty good habitat photo I was talking about before. And now here we get to these notes. And so what you'll see below is like what Ackerfield had to say about it here, and then my digestion of that, right? So these are perennials. They are rarely rhizomatous. They're 1.5 to 12 decimeters tall, which is quite a big range, but we see that relating to moisture relations. And here we see descriptors of the leaf, right? So taking a picture of the leaf with a ruler would be really helpful. Also, here we have a ligule measurement. So there was that good picture that we were just staring at the ligule, right? So another one where if you had a measurement on your thumb or had a little ruler in your hand, it would really help you to get right into this spot. And so, but here, panicles with a range like that, that's not really that helpful unless I wrote that wrong. Maybe it was 22 to 25. And then finally, I was just talking about this, the moderately congested concept, right? Like this is not like switchgrass or something where the panicle really opens. It's pretty erect and contracted. All right. So we have the nodes with 1 to 3 branches. You can take a measurement of the spike length. And so here we see this whole thing where there's weak compression in the florets, measurement of the lemma. And then this is an important step between Poa secunda and this species. Right next to it in the key is whether it's weakly keeled. And I was trying to find a picture to show people of this because I only have really heard of the word keel being used like with a like 5-petal pea flower, right? So I would say, but correct me if I'm wrong, if it was keeled, then there would be a bend in the lemma somewhere. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, it refers to like the keel of a boat. So like the bottom of a boat will like come to a point, and so it's asking whether like the back of the lemma is like a nice round shape like in cross section, or if there's like a point in the middle of it.
Okay, that's like how you tell Vicia from Oxytropis, kind of. Like the boat, the keel tip. Okay, so let's look at this. So here,
Where's
we're
that dissection photo from California that had like all the different pieces laid out next to each other? Because it's just the lemma that is supposedly has that keel.
okay, and you're saying where's that photo, Melly?
Um, the one that you had, if you scroll up, it was like the dissected spikelet.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, let's look at that. There you go.
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
But that only shows the front, not really.
Well,
Yeah, if those three seeds on the right were flipped over the opposite way, it would be the perfect photo for that.
Yeah. Mhm.
let's see if we go back. All right, well, we can still ponder that. And let's see. Okay. And then I also made reference to this, like that there's this red to green bicoloration, and the reddish tone fades to a tawny brown. We saw that in at least two pictures. And that the plant is two-toned in color when green and when drying. All right. So then we have, oh, it looks like I forgot to, oh no, I didn't. Here it is. Poa tribe, Poa genus, Poa species, Poa secunda. And then the last little piece that we're collecting is this common lookalikes. And so the real split in the key is like whether the spikelets are cobwebby or not. And Poa pratensis is cobwebby. So I thought we could look at that for a second. Just right off. I don't know if we're going to see this cobwebby thing, but something to look for. Try to make a photograph that shows up. And that's all I got for you. I hope that was helpful.
A naturalist, like on the species profile page, will also have a tab for common lookalikes that are often like if people have if they make a poor observation, it'll be collected in the data as so similar species.
Oh, there we go. Good one.
Often, yeah, Bromus inermis, which is smooth brome, in Colorado is misidentified as that sometimes because they also have kind of a loosely contracted panicle, but the spikelets are much longer.
Oh yeah, I don't think, and also don't think it has the same like.
Yeah, those are much larger spikelets too.
Yeah. Oh, but see here, there's many more observations of Bromus inermis. So like, look at the phenology chart here. It has a lot
It's
more
much more
detail.
robust, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
All
very many
right.
people making the Poa secunda observation.
At my kids'